there's an app that asks you like all these questions, and one of the questions that came up was, are you bi-curious? And he clicked yes. So when I was going through the answers, I was like, wait a minute.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from across the entire spectrum of non-monogamy to hear their fascinating stories. We strive to bring guests on the show who have a healthy approach to non-monogamy. However, it's important to remember that everyone does it a little bit differently, and the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we produce this show for entertainment purposes only. Please be aware that we aren't doctors or therapists. Consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Welcome to episode 79. We're Finn and Emma, and today we have an interview with Stephanie and Jason. They're a newbie couple, and this is a pretty kick-ass interview.
Yeah, they've been together for about 15 years or so, and met in their teens, but they've got so much good stuff in here. Everything from coming out to body positivity, shaming, or dealing with shame, dealing with depression and anxiety, and consent, and just so many good pieces in here. I think this is definitely one of the better ones we've ever had for anybody who is brand new to the lifestyle or non-monogamy would really benefit from this interview.
Yeah, I'm excited to share it. First, a couple of announcements. We wanted to thank Club Euphoria and Ray and Dee for an amazing foam party this past weekend in Findlay, Ohio. Finn and I made it down for that, and it was amazing meeting all of the other content creators and all of the other guests that came up and visited our little booth and said hi and hung out in the foam. We may have danced a bit, right?
2 hours.
At least.
Or more.
In the foam.
Yeah. We also have a discount code for you guys, a new one. A company called The Enclosed. They do subscription-based lingerie delivery. So you sign up for like a month or 6 months or a year. I think 3 months is also an option. But basically you pick the level, everything like that. Anyway,
they reached out to us and asked us to do a survey and to be on their blog. So we are now featured on their blog, which is pretty cool. But as a thank you for doing that, they actually sent me a super fun and sexy pair of underwear. So it arrived in a really neatly packaged box and even filled with rose petals. So it was actually one of the most fun unboxing experiences I've had. And I don't know, the underwear are very sexy and comfortable and a great color, and I'm super excited that they reached out to us.
Yeah, so the discount code, also I agree, they are quite sexy. The discount code is for $25 off any purchase, and that code is Emma25. And just to be clear on this, they're not an affiliate. We're not getting really a kickback for this. We just kind of had a call with them last week, with the founder of the company, and we are just sort of finding ways to help each other out, promote each other's products, and
they're a small
work together.
Right. So they're a small business as well, and have a lot of the same values we feel that we have as the same.
So awesome to be working with them, and we're excited. And one other thing they were willing to do for us, for anybody who was willing to be a patron and on our Patreon page, they can get $50 off a purchase of $150 or more. So both these discounts, either $25 or $50 off, are not small taters.
No.
As they say in the South.
Are you from the South?
No, I've heard they say that in the South.
But moving on really quick. So we also wanted to mention that speaking of Patreon, our next Patreon Q&A call is at 9 p.m. Eastern, Wednesday, August 21st. I know this is a Wednesday, but it worked best for our schedules at the moment. And just a quick update, if you haven't listened to the show recently, we have started a Patreon, and our whole goal with this is to really create community around our show. So you can be part of the monthly Q&As for as little as $2 a month, or if you are $5 a month or more, you are part of the Q&As and a group chat with everyone in the community.
Yeah, so we're super excited for that. It's starting to grow pretty good. We had 10 people in the Q&A last month, and we're hoping to have more this month, and it was awesome. So Thank you to everybody who supported us. If you want more information on this or any of the other resources, you can find it over at normalizing non-monogamy.com. And there's all sorts, there's a resource page and there's a contact us page if you want to reach out to us and say hello.
And all of the show notes are there too.
Yep, all the show notes, which will contain all of the resources for any show you've listened to so far. With that, maybe we should go hear what Stephanie and Jason have to say.
Sure, let's go.
Welcome, Jason and Stephanie.
Yeah.
To the podcast. You reached out not too long ago when we were able to turn it around quick, so thanks for working with us on that, and thanks for reaching out.
Yeah, schedules aligned quickly, which was awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, yeah, I mean, we know very little about you other than what you told us in your email. So do you mind just giving us a little background on who each of you are and why you're on our show?
I'll let you go first.
So as far as who we are as a couple, we met when I was probably 15 or 16. So, and then we're kind of off and on again until I was about 18, and then have been together since. So we've been together for almost 15 years, been married for 10. And then just kind of over the last couple of years, we've started being a little bit more adventurous. I used to work for a local adult toy company, so that kind of aided in that a little bit as well. Yeah, we just started kind of talking about what we wanted sexually, and then started to decide to open up a little bit more, and then kind of came across you guys, and now we're redefining things.
So yeah, I mean, obviously, because we met at such a young age, very similar story. You know, I'm from pretty much all over the place, and I used to live in the town that I met her in, but then moved away. And then, so spent a lot of time away and then came back. And when I came back, I started working and then actually worked with her brother.
Yeah.
Her brother was my boss. And then, and then he's like, oh, you should marry my sister. And I'm like, dude, I'm not going to marry your sister. And then I married her. And then married her. So essentially, I would say high school sweethearts since we met so young.
Yeah.
He's a little bit older than me, so he was out of high school, but my high school sweetheart.
Yeah.
Well, and how long ago, you said you had been pretty sexually adventurous. You might have mentioned that before we started recording, but at what point, I guess, did the conversation come up, or who brought up this conversation about what if we introduced other people?
I don't really know who brought it up. I think probably you.
It was probably
you. Sorry. And then, so I think he probably brought it up, and then it was just kind of a joking around kind of discussion. Yeah. And then it just was like, well, what if we're serious? And then it kind of started out as introducing a third party. And then as we developed, kind of like figuring out our dynamic, seeing what works for us, we thought maybe couples would work better. So we're all kind of winging it as we go to some extent.
And we're definitely open to trying new things, and we always have been. So it's just that having that discussion, well, what does it mean, or what would it mean if we had another person join us? Will it affect our relationship, or is it just fun and play?
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of what we've been discussing since we haven't actually done anything yet.
Oh, so newbies.
We are, in fact, newbies.
Well, so throughout the 15 years of being together, had it ever come up at all of other people?
Maybe in offhanded jokes. And we're both pretty, well, me more than you, are pretty like sex positive. Like there's no shame in sex. Like sex can be just sex. It doesn't have to be a relationship thing. So before I was with him, I never really dated per se. I would have guys that I was like friends with that we would hook up, but I never really like had the serious relationship thing. So for me, it's a little bit easier to disconnect that. So at first I was like, no. And then I was like, well, I mean, that kind of makes sense. So
right.
Yeah.
Well, then when Jason brought it up, then had you brought it up in the mindset of we'd find other relationships, or were you thinking strictly just sex? Because that seems
Strictly just
counterintuitive
sex.
to what she just laid out for your sort of approach to it.
It was just sex. We're looking just for fun and like maybe a friends with benefits kind of scenario. I think that's like from listening, a lot of people are like, yeah, just friends with benefits. Let's have fun. Let's do this.
Yeah.
We've had a few other kind of odd experiences, like in the same room sex and stuff when we were younger, like, you know, we're drunk up at a cabin and we're like, oh, okay, everyone's just doing it in the cabin. And then
the more that we started talking about it, the more we realized, well, I mean, that's sort of been our speed off and on. We just were like, that was a weird thing that happened.
Yeah. And I almost accidentally had a threesome with my best friend and this and a girl, and then
Wait.
Accidentally.
Almost. I don't even know how. I was like 18, and then like I just started making out with another friend, and then my best friend started like massaging her, and it turned into almost. And then we kind of like, whoa, nah. And then me and the girl went back to my house. So it was like, sweet.
So how long ago did you bring this up to Stephanie then? It wasn't that long ago, right?
No, it's probably been about 6 months, I would say, since we first started like more of joking about it, and then
now we're
talking about it like legitimately.
Yeah.
And have you taken any steps to make it a reality, or is it still mostly just chatting about it and coming on podcasts randomly?
So we started out with a Cassidy profile, and then that didn't really like there wasn't really seemed to be that many people in our area. I don't know if it's just like they didn't fit our dynamic or what.
It's a regional thing, I think, like depending on what app you're on.
So then we started an open profile,
the hashtag open,
and we are actually talking to somebody from that and have a date, is that what it's called? This weekend. So and then we have a SLS profile as well that we've been talking to a couple people. So
yeah. So there's that. So yeah, we definitely have one date.
Yeah, and then we have a friend who is her and her husband have like there's been weird
like
tension.
Are we gonna have sex? Are we not? Yeah. Tension. Like, is this a thing or is it not? It doesn't have to be a thing, but it could definitely be a thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Do they know what you've been exploring?
Yeah.
Okay.
And she has been in all of her relationships except for the one that she's been in currently. She was always consensual non-monogamy. So this is her first like kind of monogamous relationship in a really long time. So it's something that they've kind of been in the same territory that we are, where they're kind of discussing third, fourth parties, things like that. So yeah,
she's the one who brought it up in the first place. That it prompted me to like start feverishly Googling,
right?
What is this?
Well, and I guess when you brought it up to Stephanie, were you concerned about bringing it up? I mean, it sounds like, as she said, she's pretty sex positive, so it seems like she'd be pretty open to it. But I mean, there's always still a little bit of a worry that you might bring it up, and that might be the thing that she's not cool with.
Yeah, I think it was actually with us, it's a lot of things are just naturally flowing, like, oh, hey, threesome. And then like, so with us, we're actually pretty good at communicating those things anyways. And I actually recently came out as bi to her.
What I was gonna say.
So after that, really, what else is there that you can't talk about?
And that was before. That was first.
It's actually we started discussing the potential of a threesome, and then so we found, what is that app called with the questions?
Oh, have you? Is it
Spicer? Is that what it is?
There it is. Yeah.
There's an app that asks you like all these questions, and one of the questions that came up was, "Are you bi-curious?" And he clicked yes. So when I was going through the answers, I was like, "Wait a minute." And then I messaged him because he was at work, and I was like, "Wait, are you bi-curious? You never said that to me." And he was like, "Yeah." So then it would just like all kind of unrolled, and then
that was a bad week.
Yeah, that was the thing that he was nervous about telling me more so than I want to have a threesome.
And then because she kept coming up with, oh, okay, two girls, and I'm like, well, what about a guy?
Yeah,
like how about a guy?
Well, so how did that rollout go? You said you were more nervous about that. It doesn't seem like you got a divorce yet.
No,
No.
no. So at first it was a little bit of a shock to the system because when I first met him, I was pretty sure he was gay. Like that's just the vibe that I got from him. And then he was like, no, I'm straight. And so I spent the last 15 years defending him saying he was straight. So that was kind of a like, well, you should have just told me, like my sister is gay. Like I do a lot of like support for the LGBT community. So there should have been no concerns there, but he, I get it. Like he was raised in a religious family. So he spent, the last 25 years convincing himself that he shouldn't be like that. So it was a whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit more of a turmoil situation than the threesome ever would have been.
Yeah, because I'm definitely, there's nothing that would make me want to lose her because I love her so much. And I feel like she'd be like, oh, no, I don't know why. But for all those years, I was like, no, she's just going to dump me, get rid of me. And that wasn't acceptable to me.
Yeah.
So
you just buried it.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, hey, look at that cute guy. Just joking, didn't look.
Right. And now it's a way for me to support him too. It's fun for all of us, but it's a way for me to support him to kind of explore that part of himself without feeling ashamed. So
yeah.
And it's fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how has that been now that you're not? It sounds like you're not hiding anything anymore, right? You're able to be free about wanting potentially other partners and also about being bi. Like that's kind of a huge weight.
Yeah, it actually has helped me out quite a bit, to be honest.
So we always had a pretty strong relationship. Always valued like 100% honesty and stuff like that. So it's just opened the door that much more where there's like literally absolutely no secrets. We're, good sharing everything, including our bed, apparently.
And Stephanie, are you bi? Do you identify?
So he considers me hetero flexible. Like I'm technically straight, but if I was in a situation with a girl,
she would have fun.
Yeah. Like I'm not against it, but when I'm walking around, I'm not like, oh, I want to have sex with her. So
yeah, no, that's fair. There's all different levels of interest. So
yeah. So are there? I guess now that everything's on the table and everyone's being who they are there things that you're concerned about, or things that either of you are afraid of? Like, if we try this, something could go wrong, or are you pretty much just excited to see what happens?
A little bit of both, I think. I think the biggest concern is he's kind of a mushy-gushy romantic guy. So there's always that fear of, if we are supposed to be keeping this just sex, is he going to catch feelings? That kind of thing. But I think that's the biggest concern out of everything. I think we've pretty much talked it to death at this point. So it's kind of a, put up or shut up. Yeah. And then we'll just reassess afterwards and see if it's actually something that we're going to continue doing, or, we've always said there's got to be communication before, during, and after.
I was like, are there any other rules that you've put into place? I know a lot of people have different opinions about rules.
So we pretty much, as we started out, ruled it to death. Like there was rules about everything. And then as we go and things develop, talking to other people, or we actually like think about the realistic potential of something happening, then we kind of reassess as we go. And we're like, maybe that's not such important kind of rules.
Right.
When we first started out, we were like, soft swap only, there's no penetration. And then now we're like, but maybe there should be penetration. So
and you haven't even done anything, so you've already
yeah, exactly.
I think we only really have like 2 rules at this point. We boiled it down to like 2 rules: protection and
no fisting.
Oh,
3 rules. That third rule is always lingering there in the back.
Gosh, I always forget that one. Oops. And then no separate rooms or separate play.
No separate play.
So it's just essentially no crazy stuff, no separate rooms, and protection.
Unless there needs to be fisting, and then
then it's a hard
that's
pass.
her rule.
Yes. Well, and that can be amended. Just
Well, I was curious back on the concern about maybe one or the other of you catching feelings. Is that is that something that's negotiable at some point? If one or both of you did that, is that?
Well, that's something, to be honest with, that we've struggled with too over the years. Like, there's plenty of conversations that we've had about that.
Yeah, you can say you don't want it to happen, but you never know what's going to happen. And I guess is that something you've talked about? Like, if this happens, what do we do?
I think we've thought about it. Like what would we do in that situation? And as of right now, we're like, well, it's going to be something that has to end because our relationship comes first. But I mean, everything so far has changed and developed as we go.
Yeah.
So it's something that could change and develop as we go there too.
Yeah. I mean, that's with everything, even with our sex life, right? Like, oh, this is fun as high schoolers. We don't know how to do anything
We
weird.
started out pretty prudish and then I just kind of
And now,
blossomed into something else. Like I remember when we first started dating, like I was afraid to kiss him with tongue because I thought he would think I was a slut. So, and then he was like, wow, she's kind of a bad kisser. And I was like, well, no, I just know that you know that I've been around with other people and I didn't want you to think I was a slut. So
I thought you were a bad kisser when we first got together. Oh, that's fine. She's cute.
That's a really good story that you have now, though, right?
Yeah.
Because we've gone so from that to we have a cupboard full of sex toys that we have to hide from the kids.
Yeah, and even that's like opened up too. Like it went from, because I'm not really a big masturbator. Like I'm a strong proponent for other people to do it because it's healthy and all that stuff. But it's just something that I don't do very often. I'd rather wait till he gets home and have actual sex. But now it's developed into like, I texted him the other day and I was like, I played with my womanizer and it was a challenge to see how many orgasms I could have. And we never would have talked about that before even.
Yeah.
And now I feel inadequate. So no, I have to the record.
Now he has a goal.
There's a record put down that I have to beat.
Well, it's always good to have goals.
Yeah.
So you are going against a machine, not to say it can't be done, but
pretty good.
It's going to take all night. It's fine. I'll get it. We'll do this.
But it sounds like it's
That's what we should no, never mind. I was like, have a sponsor of energy drinks, but no, not a good idea.
It sounds like it's already, even without having physically met another couple, you've already started to see some benefits in your sex life. Are there other things that you've seen, sexual or not, that have improved since you decided to start either talking about other people or coming out to Stephanie as bi?
I think from the moment I came out, our communication has exploded as far as being able to talk to each other about anything. And because I always had that looming over my head, like, oh, I've got that part of me that I can't talk about. But now that's the biggest thing you possibly could say, right? So after that, I feel free. I mean, I felt free. She always supported me anyways.
Which is why I didn't understand why he wouldn't just tell me at the beginning.
I accepted it.
I get it.
In my soul. But we had also we've been doing more body positivity and being
I think that helped a lot too, because we both have done a lot of work on ourselves, like accepting who we are visually as a person, all those things. And then with this, like our communication, there's just absolutely no shame between the two of us.
Yeah. So that right there helped me. Like, okay, now I'm more okay with my body. I worked hard and I've lost a decent amount of weight. So that started
60 pounds.
Almost 60 pounds.
Wow. Congrats.
Good. Yeah, congratulations.
And so I was feeling good there, and I started feeling good about my body. I started feeling good about who I am, and then also taking that step to kind of say, F society, who cares what they think? And then that allowed me to then be like, okay, here's who I am.
Yeah. No, I think that makes complete sense that was your journey. I mean, all of us are carrying around some sort of, a lot of shame normally, especially when you're trying to push against society and do something a little different, and trying to just accept yourself without being ashamed of it can be really hard to do.
Absolutely. No, and that's kind of what we've kind of been trying to do, and like encourage our friends to be like, no. Who cares? Be you. Love yourself, and then that's all that matters, because when you love yourself, you'll allow yourself to be loved and stuff like that. Like I have cousins that I'm glad are following her and her Instagram, because she's all about, this is who I am, and if you have body issues, that's okay, because everybody has those, but you have the ability to choose to be okay with it, right?
Like, to love yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm a plus size girl, always have been. And it was to the point where for the longest time, like I had an eating disorder, like I beat myself up about it. And then I started taking care of my depression and my anxiety, which is a huge, huge deal for me. Because I always like thought I could do it on my own. Like that's my pride is my weakness. Like I always think that I can do everything on my own.
And
so
I think that's very common, by the way. I think most people think they can fix themselves.
Yeah, I got this. So I started taking care of that. And then I kind of was like, well, all these things that I think are wrong with me, is it because I actually think it's wrong with me, or is it because someone else told me something was wrong with me? Right. And even like with this stuff, that's kind of how we've come at it too. Like we had that discussion, like, are we going to be open to everybody about what we're doing, those kind of things. And we've kind of decided if people find out, that's totally fine. It's not their business. As long as we're happy and doing ourselves and, communicate with each other and our relationship is still strong, then we're doing the right thing. So
I think for the most part, we're lucky we have family who are like, oh, okay, that's the thing you're doing? Sweet.
My family's not that way.
Yeah, well, maybe a sister, but my family specifically, like we have that support, my family at least. Because like I came out to buy to them, like, okay, sweet, next.
Really? Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. That even my family was like, well, we already knew that. Yeah, but with the relationship stuff, because my family is very like old fashioned, like my parents were old school Southern. That's how we were raised. You don't have emotions. You don't cheat. You don't do all those things. So I can already tell that they'd be like, well, now you're going to get a divorce.
That's why they were the last ones to know.
Yeah.
But they took it, you told them.
Yeah. And they, with that news, like they were totally fine with it. This news, I think they'd be like, not so accepting.
They're like, I give it.
It's not their relationship.
Yeah. They're like, I give it 3 weeks. They're like,
kind of changing topics a little bit. Are there things? Well, I guess it's not really a change of topics, but are there other things that either of you learned about the other one that kind of surprised you as you've been talking now more openly?
Other than the bisexual thing, which I feel like was a big surprise too.
Surprise!
Although it sounds like it really wasn't a surprise to anyone.
It's true. It's true.
It wasn't.
Why is he wearing so many short shorts? Why do you can't see underwear?
Like thongs so much. I think the only like surprise really has been that we have the same taste in men.
I don't know. I feel like sometimes it's like, nope. You're like, nope. I'm like, shut up. He's cute. But yeah, like the same men.
I think there's really been that many surprises because we were already so open with each other. This has just taken away like that much more of a barrier. Mm-hmm. I think that we find out like surprising fetishes about ourselves.
That's what I was going to say. Your fetish.
Like in exploring and doing things, or like watching, like now we watch like bi porn and we never would have before.
Right.
So now we're like, that looks like it'd be fun to try.
Yeah.
Like things like that.
Then we send each other sex gifts all day long. Hey, what about this? What about that? Maybe your fetish for
multiple. You call me out right now?
I'm totally calling you out. Yeah. Like the cum. She wants cum shots like all over her face. Facials.
Oh, yeah. Now everybody knows that.
Yeah. Welcome.
Hey, but she's not into fisting, so it's fine.
Not into fisting.
That wasn't a surprise. That wasn't a surprise. That other one was a surprise.
Well, and really, again, not uncommon. That's a common fantasy.
Yeah.
I'm normal. I told you.
Me too. I said that. So nothing really surprising, really. I mean, we've known each other for so long that everything's just kind of
we're basically kids when we met. So
yeah,
right.
Yeah, you did mention children. I don't know how old they are, but are you pretty open with your children? Obviously, not about the sex stuff, but like in general, like how do you treat that for other parents that might be listening that might be trying to figure out how to navigate, being more open-minded, sex positive with your children? Do you have any tips on that?
So our kids are still pretty young. They're 1 and 5. So we haven't quite had to get there yet. But I mean, like our daughter has noticed, because we have like a bisexual flag in our room. So she's noticed that. And Jay was just like, well, that's Dad's flag.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
That kind of thing. So at this point, like we're open with them as far as like they're allowed to do or think. She said that she was going to marry another little girl that we know, and we're like, you can do that if you want, like do what makes you happy. So we're kind of just like
laying down
making
the
sure, like we're in groundwork stage now where we're just like, you can do what makes you happy. You don't have to think about what other people think of you as long as you're happy and safe.
Yep.
Right.
But we've talked about that when we get older, and when they get to the point where they're going through puberty and starting to feel feelings, like we'll have that discussion. We'll be open with them, like there's things that you do behind closed doors and that's perfectly fine. We don't need to talk about it as long as you're safe, you're happy, everything's consensual, all that kind of stuff. So and then as far as sexuality goes, as far as like same sex, opposite sex, all that stuff, like
her aunt is a lesbian, so we have
they're already kind of exposed to that a little bit. So and we go to the Pride Parade every year, so we're just trying to raise them as open and honest as possible. We don't want them to have any fears or shame about themselves.
Right.
Yeah. And most of the time kids are like, oh, that's how it is. They don't
that's our goal, is to be like, they're like not even thinking anything different of anything like that. So
we had a quick discussion about the flag. We're like, she's like, oh, what are we going to say about the flag? I'm like, we'll just say that means that Dad
I wasn't
likes...
like panicked about it. I just wanted to know, like, what do you want me to say? Do you want me to say Dad likes to kiss boys? Or do you want me to just be like, oh, that's Dad?
We're going to say that the flag just means that Dad thinks boys and girls are cute. And then leave it at that. And then see kind of where that goes from there.
Yeah, keep it age appropriate, right? I mean, and honestly, you could probably tell the 1-year-old she ain't gonna know.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't care.
We've already had the weird discussions. We'll remember. It's fine.
I'm gonna be a terrible parent someday.
Aren't we all? I think
slightly afraid.
Don't, because all parents are horrible parents. They just hide it better. Different varying levels.
You're all just doing the best you can. You're like, just as every person in life is doing the best they can.
It really is. And I think that there's so many varying levels of like judgment, right? Like, parental judgment, sexual judgment, all these different judgments that when you're behind closed doors, we're all freaks, right?
Yeah.
We're all
just something different might be your jam than mine, but doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's just,
well, and you should have the openness and ability to explore what's different about you, because that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Are there things that, along those same lines, are there things that you're excited, like you can't wait to get out there and try, or is it just sort of like, we're just curious about it all?
I feel like the second thing, really. Like, I'm excited, to try the things that I've not been able to, like with a guy, right? And like, oh, sweet, okay, I can actually. It's actually kind of like whoa, for like slight. I still want to do it, but I'm still kind of like, whoa, okay, this is gonna be really weird. Intimidated. There we go. Yeah, because number one, I'm doing the things that I've kind of just fantasized ever since I was a kid with my wife, right? Like, okay, like that's gonna be.
Yeah, so it's exciting, and then so we're allowing ourselves the freedom to experience the things that we've always thought were like taboo or weird, without worrying about what actually like other people would think about it, because it doesn't matter what other people think about it as long as we're happy. And that way we can be like, I want to do this thing, and if we don't like it, we never have to do it again. Or if it's something that we're like, I secretly want to try this, and like DVP or things like that, then we can let ourselves experience it. And so that part's exciting.
For sure. I think I agree. Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I guess on those same lines again, are there has safety been a concern in terms of just keeping each other safe and healthy? You have kids. Have you discussed how you want to move forward, doing that? Because I know that's a huge concern a lot of people have when they think about doing this, is how are we going to do this but be safe about it?
Yeah, so as far as the kids in safety are involved, anybody that we're involved in, at least right now, will never meet the kids. Like, we don't want the kids involved in any of that stuff. The kids will not be in the house or around when any sort of even just dating or hanging out is going on, so that everything is just business as usual for them.
Yep.
It'll just be like mommy and daddy's date nights and stuff like that, because we've been trying to work on that as a couple too, to where we make time for each other to go do the adult things, because we've slipped into the role of like we're just parents, like we're just mom, we're just dad. So trying to establish like ourselves as people again. So that would be our times to go do those kind of things when they're at grandma's house or with auntie, something like that. And then as far as safety, as far as ourselves, like we've both told each other, like constant communication. Like if you see something weird that's going on that looks like I'm not comfortable or you're not comfortable with, you always have to communicate that. If you feel like we're out and about and you see something weird with the person that we're with, you need to communicate that so that we're safe as far as that kind of stuff goes. There's no like
code words, code taps. Let's take this down. Let's, you yell Sasquatch really loud. We're out. We'll go.
And then as far as like safety goes, as far as like potential STD transfers and stuff like that, like we've talked about safer sex as far as like condoms and like all those kind of things goes. So yeah.
But blowjobs, no condom. That's not fun.
Fair enough. I mean, we're all assuming a certain level of risk,
right?
And so everybody takes that upon themselves, and as long as it's communicated, that's totally up to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Have you found any other resources besides our show that have been beneficial? Because again, you're kind of still at the early stages, which is super fun for us to talk to people who are right there, because it's been a long time since we've been there. So any new resources that you found super useful in the last couple months talking about it?
You're the one that does all the research, so
it's true. I think just listening to your podcast specifically, because it's you go through the beginning stories of every guest, and that really helped us and me kind of convey, there's this, and this, like our rules, like we've boiled our rules down to like 3, right? So we've listened to everybody else's rules, and like they usually tend to like go away. So I'm like, okay, well.
Or modify,
right? So, like, it makes sense, yeah. But yeah, so your podcast, because yours goes to their personal stories more, and I felt like that was more useful for me to kind of like, okay, and this is how it looks like on the other side.
Yeah.
Like on the other side, here's the beginning. It looks like this, and on the other side, it looks like this. Right? It's kind of like the full spectrum, and you can see that. Marriage doesn't have to end just because you're having fun with other people, and just communicate.
Life evolves, like everything about life and stuff like that evolves, especially because we've been together for so long. Like, of course, we're gonna evolve together. So
yeah.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Well, and I'm personally, fascinated and looking forward to hearing how it evolves, because again, this is, as you touched on, Jason, like this is not only your first time exploring outside of your relationship, but it's also your first time exploring the bisexual side. And I think, those are 2 huge things, and you're doing them both at the same time. Not to pile on the pressure.
No,
no pressure.
You've obviously taken your time. Like you said, it's been 6 months, and you still haven't gone on a date yet, which is totally cool. But like you've spent all that time talking and learning and taking your time to get to those steps. You haven't just jumped right in, which some people that works for them. But
I think a little bit of it was it's hard, obviously, because I'm not going to hide the fact that I'm bi. So on the profiles and stuff, we say I'm bi, and I think that might scare away, because like I'm not against straight play just because I'm bi.
Right, exactly.
Right, like I can still play the girl. Come on, but. I think that scares away some guys or some couples. He's gonna, maybe do something with me. I'm like, well, this is consent. I'm definitely enthusiastic consent. Is important. So, because if you're not willing, I definitely don't. That's not fun for me either. So,
no.
I'm not a predator. But
we have a little bit of a twofer there too, because you have like the bi thing, and it's a little bit harder to find partners in the community that are, guys on guys, like that are okay with that kind of stuff. But also like being a plus size girl, like there's so many things that are like people will in their profile be like fit people only, like all these things. Like I don't remember what club it was, but there was a club that I was looking at that actually had a BMI restriction on it. And I was like, that's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
So there's that. I mean, because BBW is a fetish, but like we also don't want weirdos that are just into that kind of thing.
Yeah. So we're also picky.
Well, I mean, you're just a person. It's just, you're
right.
not just somebody's fetish. I think that
that's exactly my stance.
And that's I think she's posted that.
I literally
on
my Instagram was like, I'm a woman, not a fetish. So
yeah. Well, it sounds like you're taking your time. It's okay to be picky. You can sort through things and meet the right people, and it might take a little bit of trial and error to meeting different people till you find a good match. But have you received pushback online so far for being bi on your profile?
No.
Good.
Pushback? No. We've just had a lot of people that were like, when we're talking to them, like you can totally tell they're just kind of like not necessarily put off by it, but they're like, well, I don't do any gay stuff. I don't do any of that stuff. And we're like, well, he's not gay. He's bi. Like, totally okay to not do any of that stuff. So
I'm just down to play.
Right. And in that situation, because that's come up, we're like, well, that's an uncomfortable situation. We don't want anybody to think that there's anything, any sort of underlying maniacal, like secret motives or anything.
What did I say? If one flops in my lap, I'm gonna play with it, but I'm not gonna.
I know. I think that's good. I mean, and I think that's something that we've started to see people relaxing a little bit about, not necessarily their stance on like whether they're interested or not, but how they approach it, right? Like you don't have to be a dick about it. Like you can be like, hey, it's not for me, but we're totally happy to hang out, and we trust that you're just as consent oriented as any other couple. And I think that's the thing to remember is just because you're bi doesn't mean you run around like trying to get with every guy that's within reach.
Yeah. Well, and our big thing is not like, it's not just consent, it's enthusiastic consent. So if there's any sort of like, maybe not, or then we're like, no, it's not for you. We're not for you.
This isn't for you. It's I only date cute guys.
They got to pass the cute bar.
Oh, sorry. Don't worry. Don't flatter yourself. Don't flatter yourself.
You don't look like Jason Momoa. So
I mean, that's a really high bar. So I get it.
Well, is there anything that we didn't touch on that you were hoping to get out there today?
I think we hit pretty much everything that I mean, as far as question for you guys, I mean, is there any sort of feedback that you would have for us, like in getting into the lifestyle, things to look out for? Yes. Those kind of things.
It sounds like you guys have pretty much knocked them all out. I mean, you like a lot of the things that people worry about are they good looking enough? Or, in your case, I'm bi. Is anyone going to like that about me? And it sounds like you both kind of have those, whether or not it still is an issue at times, like you kind of have them under control, or at least in the forefront. Like,
well, you've worked on the self-love part a lot, which sounds
huge,
which is huge. And also taking the time to have all the conversations and do some research and stuff ahead of time, I think is also really good.
And I think it's easy at the beginning to want, like the first time somebody wants to play with you, to be like, well, this is our only opportunity to ever do this, especially if it took 6 months to find somebody, and then you finally find somebody, and then it's like, well, it's not perfect, but this is our only opportunity, so we're going to go for it. That doesn't usually work out well.
Or if somebody has drank too much or something like that one night, just call it and reconvene. Like, or if they're really feeling you and you're not really feeling them, or vice versa, like it's okay not to push to make it happen.
Right.
And realize that there will be another time. And also one of our learning points was be patient and considerate with people, but don't be overly patient. If there's red flags, or you're uncomfortable, or you're just like, this night's not going well, get out of there. Like,
even if you're in the middle of doing anything. Like, and it's hard. Like if your clothes are off and things seem to be going along, or especially if your partner seems like they're having fun, and you're not, like, you still, it's hard, but you've got to be able to find a way to get out of that situation.
That's a lesson we've learned many times.
And that's something that we've discussed too, because he's really like more gung-ho, like, this person's talking to us, let's invite them somewhere and all this stuff. And I'm like, maybe we should just slow your roll and we'll make sure that they're a decent human being first.
Well, and also remember, you're gonna fuck it up. Like, you'll think, oh, this is great, and then you'll get in there and then you'll leave, you'll be like, what the fuck happened? Like, it seemed great. And so you're gonna make mistakes, but as long as you're on the same team and you're working together and communicating about it.
And don't beat yourself up about a mistake.
Absolutely.
It's gonna happen. But
yeah,
I think we've already discussed essentially the fuck up clause.
Yeah.
Which is, you know what, we'll forgive ourselves.
We're gonna do something wrong and it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and maybe even more than once. I've never done it, but Emma, she's a repeat offender.
I think we've both done it together.
So no, I think it's been awesome.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I have any other advice, but we hit the big ones that I wish I would have known at the beginning.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess we wish you both happy trails, and keep us in the loop, because I think people would be interested to hear like how it goes now that we kind of heard about it right from the beginning, and maybe we get the update story in a while.
And we've actually had a couple emails with people requesting stories from people who are brand new too. So it's very exciting that you reached out and were willing to come on the show, because that's very helpful for people who are just starting out and they're in the same place as you. So
I'm glad to do it.
Yeah, because I can't count how many times I've listened to your guys' show and then been like, that's a good point. Oh yeah, that might work. Like those kind of things. So yeah.
Well, perfect.
That's the whole point.
Hopefully, one or two of those comes out of this one for somebody else.
I'm sure it will.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Well,
and we'll reconvene and touch base with you, in a few months, maybe.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
After a date.
Call you Saturday.
Well, I'll call you Saturday.
Well,
let us know how it goes, and we'll put an addendum at the end of this to how it went.
Yes.
So
actually, that would work, because this won't publish right like this week. So
Perfect. Well, you two have a wonderful day.
Yes.
And we will chat soon.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. Bye.
And we're back. Right? Hello? Thank you to Jason and Stephanie. I hope everyone got a lot out of this episode. We were super pumped to share it.
Yeah, it was definitely, again, I think you will have to agree at this point that was fantastic information for anybody who is new to the swinging community. And also...
Quick update.
Yeah, well, first, I was just going to say, anyone who has had to deal with coming out to their partner about being bi.
Oh, yes, that's a very good point.
A pretty amazing story. So congratulations to them on doing that.
Yes.
So, the update on their date. So basically what they told us is the couple ghosted on them at the last second, and basically, never heard from them again. But
I know.
But they kept a super awesome attitude. They went out, had a kick-ass date anyways.
Yeah.
And they basically said, you know what? They're not worried about it. They're going to continue to just take their time and meet the right people when they meet the right people. So that's pretty much the best attitude you could have. So
we're excited for them and wish them luck in the future, because we think they have a fantastic attitude around it all.
So next week,
we have an interview with Norm, and we actually met Norm at Atlanta Poly Weekend when we were there in June, and he is an amazing person. He's very honest with us about some of his relationships with his partners and family and friends, and has a lot of goodness in it.
Yeah, and he's also a super good resource. He runs some different discussion groups out in the DC area and some support groups.
Yeah.
So he's kind of a wealth of knowledge on the topic, and his story will leave you laughing and maybe cringing a little. So you're going to want to come back next week, and we will see you all then.
Thanks for listening, everyone.